basic core of the gospel, what shines forth, is the beauty of the saving love of God, made manifest in Jesus Christ, who died on the cross and was raised from the dead. Hello, my name is Father Robert Schreiter. I hold the Vatican Council II Chair in Theology at Catholic Theological Union. And I want to talk about what Pope Francis calls the heart of the gospel. The new evangelization is a term that's been around now for more than 3 decades and has come in the course of that time to mean many things, many different things at times, to people. At one point it seemed it was mainly to try to get people back into the church and active in the sacramental life of the church. For others it was to reach people who were perhaps only lukewarmly connected with the Christian message. What Pope Francis wants to do in this exhortation is really take us to the heart of what all of this is about. And we need to begin with the heart of the gospel. He feels that often we've got caught up in the secondary aspects. In other words, the consequences of what it means to live out of the heart of the gospel. So we get tied up in moral precepts, particular positions that sometimes even get politicized, and these then become identified with what the Catholic Church is and is trying to communicate. No, he wants to say we need to go back to something more fundamental. And he notes that the Church in the Second Vatican Council affirmed the idea of a hierarchy of truths. What this means is the truths are indeed true, they are all true, but they all fit together in a particular sort of way, so much so that some are more primary and others then flow from that as concrete expressions. And his concern is that we really focus on those primary areas. As he puts it in one point in the exhortation, sometimes we talk more about law than we talk about grace. Sometimes we talk more about the church than we talk about Christ. And sometimes even we talk more about the Pope than we do about God's Word. So he wants to shift that. And it's the shift to that heart of the gospel that I want to explore with you just now. Again, to take the quote where he brings this together. He says, in this basic core of the gospel, what shines forth is the beauty of the saving love of God made manifest in Jesus Christ, who died and rose from the dead. It is God's overwhelming love that is offered to us, not just as an object to be looked at, but as a reality to be experienced, a reality that in turn transforms our lives, that He wants to see us communicate. And this love is best caught in the word mercy. My sense is that mercy will be the hallmark of this pontificate. Already in his first public address on the Sunday after his election in St. Peter's Square, he focused in on the question of mercy. Well, what is mercy? Sometimes we understand it principally as not being punished to the extent that we should. So we think about mercy being given a criminal in a court. Now that is indeed an important part of mercy, but what we need to get at is what's behind that, what makes that possible. And what makes that possible is this unbounded love of God, a love that is shared. And when we come into encounter with that love, we are changed. We see ourselves differently, we experience ourselves differently, and we are urged in that love to go out, to reach out to others. And it is this reaching out that then presents the meaning of the gospel, so that all the stories about Jesus' ministry, His healing of the sick, His preaching, all of this comes into focus because of this great love. And it's this love that then manifests itself in solidarity. It manifests itself in compassion. It manifests itself in reaching out to those who are on the margins of our world. And indeed, later in the exhortation, when Pope Francis goes through what he calls the idolatries of our time, the economic order that marginalizes and oppresses so many, of living in a throwaway culture where we throw away things, but then we start throwing away people as well. All of this then starts to come into focus. That we need to live in mercy. And towards the end, he has a statement, I think, that really captures this for us. We sometimes get tired of seeking God or feel God is not close. But as he says, God never tires of seeking us. It is we who grow tired of seeking God's mercy. And what his call to the new evangelization is to reawaken the sense of that love in our own lives, so that we may indeed have what he calls the fragrance of the gospel. That we not just simply have moral precepts, but we exude, as it were, what the gospel is about. Just one final comment of the impact already this document has had. 2 months ago, right after it appeared, I was visiting a colleague in Europe who was dying, coming out of a very conservative Protestant background. He had read the document in full. He felt compelled by it as he read it. And he said, Pope Francis can be our Pope too. And more recently, I was at a memorial service here in Chicago for a colleague from the Lutheran School of Theology who was an outstanding missionary in the church and had worked so tirelessly for the gospel. And in the sermon at the memorial service, the sermon was framed by Pope Francis's joy of the gospel. So already his enthusiasm has reached far beyond the bounds of the Catholic Church to all who seek to follow Christ, who try to live in the mercy of God. So that is our hope, and that is indeed the promise of the new evangelization as Pope Francis has envisioned it.